Welcome to the AEN Stories channel.
I didn't mean to be late. That sounds like an excuse, and maybe it is, but it's also the truth. The hospital had a board meeting that refused to end, the kind where administrators nod at words like efficiencies while everyone silently negotiates what hour they'll be allowed to see their families. I texted Anna twice from the parking garage, on my way. Save me a seat? And then I was sprinting to the car with a suit jacket over my arm and the kind of stomach you get before a test you didn't study for. Sophie was playing the lead mouse in The Lion and the Lark, which is not a show anyone remembers when they leave 5th grade, but she'd been practicing lines in the back seat for weeks, turning the car into a theater with seatbelts. She'd made paper ears. She'd taped whiskers to her cheeks one Saturday and asked if they looked real. I told her they looked better than real because they were hers. The elementary school gym smelled like wood and old oranges. Folding chairs had been arranged with the kind of optimism only teachers possess. Construction paper stars framed the stage, and the backdrop was a forest painted in greens that had run out halfway through. A hand-lettered sign said "Tonight Only." As if Broadway might show up in our cul-de-sac. I checked my watch, 1 minute to curtain, and scanned the crowd for Anna's hair, the exact brown of Sophie's, usually twisted up with a pencil like she's been grading papers her whole life. My chest loosened when I saw Sophie's class lined up at the edge of the stage, kids in felt and cardboard, solemn with the weight of performance. I slipped into a seat in the back, next to a dad who smelled like after-shaven popcorn. And then I saw Anna. Not in the chairs, not on the aisle. In the corridor that runs past the gym's double doors and down to the art room, where papier-mâché heads stare like disembodied witnesses. She was half-turned, laughing that laugh she does when she's nervous and wants to be charming. There was a man with her, his hand curved around her waist, not in a friendly way, not the 6-inch distance people keep when they don't have permission. His palm fit there like it had rehearsed. He leaned in to say something by her ear. She tilted under it. They didn't see me. Why would they? As far as they knew, I was still on I-84, hating brake lights and the choices that lead to them. I looked down at my phone because I didn't know where else to look. A new text from Anna, sent 3 minutes earlier: "You'll do great, Soph, we're right here." The "we" made my stomach drop, like an elevator that forgets the last floor. The house lights dimmed. A teacher with a microphone begged us not to use flash photography and to hold applause until the end. The double doors bumped as latecomers slid in. The man's hand tightened once and then fell. Anna smoothed her dress. They separated, but not really. I watched the first 10 minutes of the show like a person sitting in a room where the temperature isn't what it's supposed to be. Sophie came out in her gray felt vest and paper ears and did a small bow with all the dignity of a 9-year-old taking her place in the world. She found she found the space where we always are, counting on her parents to be standing and waving too much. I lifted my hand and then let it fall, guilt embarrassing me. I should stand. I should whistle like the dads who don't care about decorum. I should be joy. Instead I was inventory. The man didn't come into the gym. Anna slipped in alone, the casualness of it practiced, the kind of casual that takes planning. She sat at the end of the row near the doors, 2 seats from her parents. Her mother, Brenda, looked like a person who'd arranged her face for a photo. Her father, Paul, kept his hands folded in the precise cathedral of men who've built barns and know how to hide their hearts. Sophie delivered her first line. Even the smallest pause can carry courage, and the audience made that sound adults make when children sound like prophecies. The 5th grade chorus missed an entrance, then found it, then overcorrected. A kid in a fox costume tripped over a pretend stump and popped back up, bowing at the wrong time. The audience cheered like he'd invented recovery. There's a kindness to school plays that heals more than the school knows. I wanted to be in it, not next to it. I wanted to be only the dad who smells like after-shaven popcorn. At intermission the gym lights came up and everyone stood like plants turning toward a window. I threaded through the small talk, congratulations already being handed out, toddlers melting down in glitter, teachers with smiles that have worked hard for years. I moved toward the corridor because not moving toward the corridor would be a lie I couldn't live with. He was there again. At the end of the hall by the trophy case, looking like he belonged in this building and also like he'd never set foot in an elementary school before. Mid-30s, maybe. Crisp shirt that didn't have a child's handprint anywhere. I recognize the look in his eye because I've seen it in mirrors, the calculus of consequences against the pleasure of pretending you're not making choices at all. Anna was half hidden by a bulletin board about kindness. I said her name. She turned. For a half second her face went through three expressions: relief, surprise, and an expression I refused to name. "Michael," she said. She stepped toward me and away from him, and that choreography told me more than anything she might have chosen to confess. "You made it." "Yeah," I said, and heard how small it sounded. "Just in time." The man tried to do the decent thing men try when it's too late. "I should," he said, the sentence that cowards and polite people share. He put out a hand, as if to shake mine, as if we were in a boardroom closing a deal and not in a school hallway standing at the edge of a crater. "Don't," I said, not loudly. He pulled his hand back like he'd touched an outlet. "Michael," Anna said, gentler than I deserved or wanted. "Let's not here." "You chose here," I said. It surprised me how even my voice was. Something in me had cooled so quickly I worried there'd be steam. He looked like he wanted to explain, which I couldn't survive. "I'm going to go," he said, finding his exit line. He glanced down the hall, toward the back doors. "Anna." "Don't," she said to him this time, same volume, same temperature. We were at Tableau in the only place in America sacred to everyone, a public school hallway aligned with construction paper and rules. I could feel the gym behind me, the flapping of programs, the tangle of children's voices. I could feel Brenda and Paul somewhere among the chairs, wondering where their daughter had slipped off to and why their son-in-law had moved toward the doors like a man checking the weather before a storm. The intercom cracked, a teacher's voice too close to the microphone. 5 minutes to places, please." I looked at my watch though I didn't need to. I looked at Anna though I didn't want to. "Who is he?" I asked, because my mouth wanted facts even if my chest didn't. She breathed in like a runner. "His name is Eric," she said. "He works at the bank." She looked down at her hands and lifted them, empty. "It's complicated." "It's always complicated," I wanted to say, except for the parts that aren't. The parts that fit in a palm. I nodded because nodding is what you do when your body can't decide between fight and collapse. "Sophie's back on in 5, I said. "We should go sit." We went back into the gym in a quiet no one noticed because school gyms make noise like oceans. Anna took her seat. Her mother leaned and said something with her eyebrows doing too much work. Her father stared straight ahead. I stayed in the back where I'd started, because sometimes geography is all the control you have. The second half felt shorter. Sophie had 3 more lines and a small solo. She found the end of it like she'd practiced in the living room, and the sound did the thing that sound does when it knows it's being asked to carry more than itself. It lifted something out of me I didn't know I still had. I clapped too hard at the end, my palms stinging, because clapping is one of the last honest acts. People stood. There were bows, too many, not enough. The kids waved at no one and everyone, and the teachers cried in that relief that means another year found its finish line. And then the lights came up and the parents surged and I decided to do the thing I knew I'd replay for years whether I did it or not. I walked down the aisle and toward Anna where she stood at the edge of the rows with her parents on either flanking side, the way you stand at a cliff's edge and decide whether to jump. Eric had hovered near the exit, and for a minute I thought he'd done the thing cowards do, vanish and wait for later to send a text with the word "sorry doing too much work." But he was there, off to the side behind a cluster of folding chairs, pretending to be part of no one's conversation. He looked at his phone, then at the doors, then at Anna, and I wondered whether he realized there are scenes in life you don't get to leave just because you want to. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't touch anyone. I walked to where they could see me, where the principal could see me, where the art teacher with the scarf and the parents I've been waving to for 9 years could see me. I said, "Anna," and then I said, "Eric," the name doing its job, turning a stranger into something specific. Her mother said, "Michael, let's not, this isn't," and touched my arm the way you touch a pot you hope isn't hot. Paul stood, old bones fast in a way I haven't seen since he lifted Sophie into the air too and called her an airplane. I pointed to the floor between us because pointing anywhere else would hurt. "I'm not going to make a speech," I said. I'm not going to make a scene that Sophie has to hear about on Monday when someone's dad is sloppy with his gossip. But I am going to stand here long enough that we all know what we're choosing." Eric said nothing. Good for him. Anna looked at me and then at her father, and her face did a thing I recognized from when she was 30 and trying to decide if we had enough money for a bigger apartment. She took inventory of the cost. The gym around us kept being a gym, scooters being pushed back into closets, younger siblings chasing each other in circles, a line forming for cupcakes someone's grandmother had frosted with too much blue. Paul cleared his throat because he is a man who speaks when there are fewer words to choose from. "Michael," he said, and put a hand on my shoulder with a pressure that said, "I am with you, and I hate that I have to say it out loud." Brenda, to her credit and her curse, moved toward smoothing. "Everyone is tired," she said. "Shapes look wrong when you're tired." Which is the kind of sentence designed to keep houses from burning and also the reason some burned quietly for years. "Mom," Anna said, and her voice had the warning in it that daughters use when they need their mothers to stop rearranging furniture while the ceiling falls. Sophie found us then. She'd maneuvered through the thicket of grown-ups with the ease of someone who has learned the adult world is just a complicated obstacle course. Her whiskers were smudged. Her ears were crooked. Her eyes were as wide as the paper moon they'd hung from a fishing line. "Did I do good?" she asked, because children are the bravest petitioners. "You were amazing," I said, faster than anyone else could get a syllable out. I crouched so we were level. "You were brave and funny and perfect." She smiled so hard her face hurt. Then she looked at her mother and at me and at Eric, who tried to become a coat rack with a heartbeat. Children understand equations we pretend are too advanced. "Who's he?" she asked, turning the gentlest knife. "A friend," Anna said. The word landed and tried to do more than it was built for. "A friend," Sophie repeated, practicing the new math. She nodded like she was making a note for later. She slipped her hand into mine. "Can we get cupcakes?" she asked, "which is the world's best ambulance?" We did. We stood in line, and I let her pick the one with the most frosting, and she got some on her nose, and Anna used a napkin to wipe it off as if familiarity were transferable. Eric disappeared. Brenda pretended she suddenly needed to help stack chairs. Paul found the principal and shook his hand too long. The teachers carried props off stage like they were carrying a season. On the way to the car, Sophie skipped even though she's right at the age when skipping becomes embarrassing. "Can we get pizza?" she asked. "The kind with the bubbles?" "Absolutely," I said, which is Latin for, "I don't know what to do next, but I can do this." At home, Sophie drew a bath and turned the tub into a lake for plastic animals. I sat on the edge of the bed in the guest room, because our room was a museum I couldn't enter. Anna stood in the doorway, hands in the sleeves of an old sweatshirt, hair down now like she wanted to look more familiar. "I can explain," she said. "I don't want the version built for court," I said. "I don't want the version where I'm the villain because I was late to a meeting and bought the wrong apples last winter. I want the nouns." She leaned her head against the doorframe. "I messed up," she said. "I did something that felt good and then felt necessary and then felt like it owned me. I told myself it wasn't about you. I told myself it was about being seen. And then I learned how to be good at lying in ways I didn't know I had in me." She looked at the carpet. "I'm sorry." "Are you done?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "I ended it last week." Apparently not in a way that kept him from showing up to tell the story himself. We both sat in the fact of that. Pipes thumped as Sophie turned the hot water too far. "I want to fight for us," Anna said. "I want to go to therapy and eat the humble pie and build the kind of transparency that makes you hate me for a while and then maybe not. I will sleep wherever you need me to, see whoever you want me to, give you whatever passwords make you able to breathe." She took a breath that sounded borrowed. "I love you." I love her. I don't know how to have said that out loud less stupidly when I was acting like someone else. I nodded. "It's not the kind of thing you forgive in a hallway. We're going to take Sophie to school tomorrow and then we're going to call someone who knows how to hold the map," I said. "For now, you're in the guest room. For now, there's a schedule. For now, we don't let Eric become the main character in this story." She nodded back. "Okay." Sophie padded in, hair wet, eyes bright. "Can I sleep in your room?" she asked me, as if we hadn't spent years teaching her about her own bed and bravery and boundaries. "Yes," I said, quickly, "because there are rules and then there are nights." She crawled under the covers and arranged her stuffed fox with exacting tenderness. "Will you tell me the part about the braid mouse again?" she asked, already sinking. "Even the smallest pause can carry courage," I said, and she smiled around sleep. Downstairs, I thickened the air with the smell of pizza we hadn't eaten, put dishes in a dishwasher that sounded like a shy train, and texted Paul, "Thank you for standing with me." He wrote back, "Family first. Always." Brenda sent a heart and then, 2 minutes later, "Come for dinner Sunday. I'll keep my opinions in my purse." I laughed for the first time since the corridor. In bed, Sophie turned and put a hand on my arm the way she did when she was 2 and learning that dark was just light with its eyes closed. I stared at the ceiling and replayed the quarter like a film that refuses to end, each frame something I wanted to swap for a better one. The only mercy was that she had been on stage when the worst of it was happening. Theater saved her from a different theater. In the morning, the house smelled like coffee and damp towels. Anna made Sophie's lunch the way she always does, cutting the strawberries into hearts like muscle memory cannot be undone in a day. I drove Sophie to school, and she talked about how the kid who played the fox had 3 relatives show up with signs and how unfair it was that she only got 2 cupcakes. "Next time I should get 3, she decreed, "a Monica frosting." I said we'd lobby the committee. After drop-off I sat in the car and let the engine be loud for me. I called a counselor whose name a friend had texted when his life needed a rebuild. They had an opening Thursday, which made me mistrust them and also gave me hope. I made one appointment for me and one for us, because injury and team sport need different trainers. At work, people asked about the play and I said, it was beautiful, which was true. At lunch, I sat in the break room and wrote a list because lists are proof of an intention to survive. Call Paul, text Brenda, buy Sophie a new pack of paper for drawing, she runs through it like oxygen. Cancel the trip to my mother's next weekend because I can't survive her advice right now, take the guest room sheets to the wash, email the principal to thank the teachers, breathe. That night Sophie asked if I'd help with homework. "We're doing metaphors," she said, proud, like she'd discovered a new element. "What's a metaphor?" I asked. "It's when you say something is something else," she said. "Like, my heart is a drum." "Good," I said. She looked at me like she'd expected more. "Okay, your turn," she said. "Do one." "The house is a boat," I said, looking at the table where we eat and tell truth and try not to drown. "And we're learning to sail." She considered that, 9 going on 90. "Does it have snacks?" she asked. "Only the good kind," I said. I don't know where the story ends. It may end in a smaller life that is also a better one. In a house with 2 calendars and a daughter who knows her parents can be kind from separate couches. It may end in a longer table that holds us all, in passwords we don't need anymore, in a miracle rebuilt from small lumber. It may end in 100 middle chapters that are just Tuesday and soccer practice and the phrase, "Remember that play?" said with a smile that aches less each time. I do know this. The moment that should have been our proudest became our point of no return because return isn't a direction you can go when you've seen a thing clearly. Forward is the only responsible verb left. Even the smallest pause can carry courage. Mine aren't small. I can carry some, too. We'll see how far it takes us. Thank you for listening my story. If you want more raw, real, and gripping stories like this one, subscribe to the AEN Stories channel. Your support keeps these stories alive.